why? They say that actions have consequences. And who can best attest to that than a former lecturer who got into drug trafficking, was nabbed by the authorities, and ended up spending 7 years in prison. Come with me. Let's meet Grace Akinyi. Hi, Grace. Maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself.
Grace is a free spirit. I love music. I love reading. I love making friends. I love telling stories. I was a lecturer by profession. But once a lecturer, always a lecturer.
Yeah.
There's nothing as good as marrying somebody you love and someone who loves you. At a very tender age, we were both very young, so it was good. Later on, things changed, and I just realized that it happens a lot. These things do happen a lot. But probably I didn't know how to react, because maybe I should take you a little bit backwards. I am an only child, and hence I was used to a lot of love. My parents loved me so much. And that's the only life I knew, that people just need to be loved. So when I got married, we were in love, as you have rightly said, and life was so good. He was a doctor. I had just started working. He was also just newly employed in Mombasa before, then he came to Nairobi, and that's where we met. And things took a very quick, it was so fast, because when you love somebody and he loves you, you don't see what next. When he proposed that he wanted to marry me, I was very fast at saying yes, though my parents, especially my mother, did not agree to it, because there were other suitors who were also interested in me. I was once a very beautiful girl.
You still are?
Thank you. My parents had no choice. They had to just accept and love whom I loved. So he formalized our marriage, and life started. But somewhere in after several years, after so many years, because we already had our children, things took a totally different turn. He started drinking, he became alcoholic, and he got involved in several affairs. And this is something that was shocking to me, because we were so used to a good life together with our children. We were so happy, just a moderate, happy family. And then this, all of a sudden, someone doesn't take care. He's dropped his responsibilities, keeps on going away, and some weekends he would not come back. And if I would ask, it would be a problem. Why do you want to control my life? It was so hard. And this got me into near depression. I think I was actually depressed. I was very depressed. And by this time, my dad had long passed on. He was diabetic. And then my mother was very sickly. And by the way, we were workmates. And we were so close. Because even as I was growing up, I was very, very close with my parents. So when she started deteriorating, and I was seeing her getting very weak, and she was once a very, very strong person, this was also bringing me down, because she was someone who was so dear to me. And then here is my home breaking down. I think it was too much for me, because I had never in my life contained such pain before. So I probably didn't know how to deal with it. So I went and explained to a friend whom I had met through a brother of hers who was our tenant. My parents had houses that they were renting. And when I spoke to her and told her, I think, because in my mind what I needed now was to get more money so that I could move from this home without disturbing my mom's peace, and continue living with the same standard with my children. That was not a very good decision, because I was a lecturer, I was earning. I could have probably just moved to a smaller house and probably eaten sukuma wiki and ugali with my children, and we could have just survived. But I wanted to maintain my usual standard of life. Because, you know, out there you don't want anybody to know that you're suffering. You don't want to explain to your fellow lecturers, this is what I'm going through. You don't want people who are your enemies to see that you're going down, you know? Basically, maybe you want to live for people instead of living for yourself. And that's the mistake that most of us make. And that was no exception. So I went to a friend and I talked to her, and she said, okay, if it's money you want so that you can move from this place, I will show you what to do. She was into business. She had a hair salon. She was doing business abroad that I didn't understand very well. I just saw somebody doing so good, changing cars left and right, dressing very well, living large. And I loved that. And when I talked to her, initially, to cut a long story short, I believed that I was engaging myself into a business of gemstones without knowing that I was jumping from the frying pan to the fire. So she explained to me, and without thinking deeply into what she was telling me, I followed suit. And before I knew it, I was already traveling to Pakistan with a belief that I was going to come back with gemstones.
So, and where did you tell people you were going for a period?
That was another problem because, as I've told you, my mother was sick, and we were not in good terms. So I think for him, he didn't really care where I was going, because whether I was around or not, because he was already in another world, in another relationship. So it was going to be easy for me to tell him I'm just going to be away for 2 or 3 days, because initially the journey was supposed to take, I think, not more than 3-4 days. So it was easy just to tell him I'm going to the village. And for my mom, because I already told you she was ill, and I didn't want to burden her with my problems, I also told her I was going to the village. Now, to each one, my mother was going to my husband's village. My husband was going to my mother's village. So you see, it was easy. I had calculated that I would be away safely and come back safely. Because just to go and collect gemstones and come back, it was not hard. And remember, this lady had, before, why I was convinced to go, she had told me that I could put in my money. It's like if I'm doing business and it's my business and you want maybe to make something out of it, I can tell you, Kadhambi, bring 200,000. When I'm buying my stuff, I'll buy for you and I'll do for you and I'll get you the profit. So she had made me take a loan from Mwalimu Cooperative of about 200,000, and I had given her, hoping that she would trade in whatever gemstones and give me my profit, which was not going to be so bad. And I was going to solve my problem, because initially I was not supposed to travel at all. So when I gave her this money, after 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing. I would go to her office and look like a beggar, because she would have no time for me. So she knew what she was doing. So I would, 1 month, if it's a loan, after 1 month, they would deduct. And you remember, it's money I'm looking for. And even the thought that I could have probably used this 200,000 to solve my problems didn't come to me, because if it's a loan, you'll keep on paying. And because of what she had told me, that 200,000 was going to bring enough money, I was going to pay the loan immediately, and I was not going to be into any debt, and I would still have extra money. I went to Pakistan. It was not gemstones. I later realized from her niece that I had gone to carry heroin.
Wow. How did she reveal that to you?
After keeping me there, remember I was supposed to leave this place in 2-3 days. 1 week, 3-4 days came and passed. 1 week, 2 weeks.
And where are you staying?
In her house, in her niece's house in Pakistan.
Okay.
So I asked her, I won't mention any names here, why am I still here? I was supposed to leave within 3 or 4 days. She said, you just stay. And remember, when I just entered, the first thing this girl asked me for was my passport and my ticket. And in my innocence,
Your return ticket?
My ticket, yes. You know, you have to book a return ticket most of the times. Okay. So I gave her the ticket. I thought she just wanted to see. Because she told me, let me see your itinerary. I want to see how you traveled. And innocently, you won't suspect anything. Yeah. And in those days, these issues of drugs were not so known like now. If you ask me myself, I'd never heard of cocaine or heroin. As much as I was a lecturer then, that's almost 20 years back. It was not so known like now. So when she took my ticket and passport, she kept them. And she led me into a room and said, this is going to be your room. And then I started experiencing some weird kind of treatment because I'm not allowed to go to the sitting room. When people come in, I'm told to go back to the room. I stay there. Food is brought in the room. And remember, when I went to this place, I was still under depression. So this kind of treatment put me into more depression. I asked her, what is it? 3-4 days have passed. I need to go. We are opening school on Monday, college that is. And she's, after I think a week or 2 or so, she now came and sat with me and said, how well do you know my auntie? I said, I know her because she comes to our place to visit her brother. And I also go to her hair salon to make my hair. And when I had a problem, I approached her, this and that and that. And she said, I feel sorry for you because it's like you really don't know what you are getting into. You came here to carry drugs. And you can see how my auntie is well established and well known at home. Well known in the sense that, how can I put it? She was connected. When I say connected, you know, well connected. Yeah. So if you don't do what she asked you to do, then your life may be in jeopardy. And I was scared. And I started thinking, why is it that when people come in here, I'm told to go to the room? I cannot talk to anybody. I'm not allowed to go out. I never stepped outside that house from the day I went in until the day I was going out to the airport. And she told me, you know, now you just have to do what we ask you to do. But once you do and you go and deliver to her, please leave her alone. She's not a nice person. If you want to do business, deal with me directly. And Kavambi, I just wanted to go home because it was 3 months down the line. Yes. And
you have small kids. Your kids were really young.
They were very young.
Where were they?
With their father.
Okay.
Their father.
And no communication because I'm assuming 20 years back.
No communication. I have no phone because I didn't travel with any telephone. I have no documents. I am living under the mercy of these people. And remember, I'm still in that confused state because when I think about it these days, I normally say, why couldn't I just stand out the window and scream? Maybe some police or somebody would have come to my rescue. But no, that was not in my mind. Mine was to be obedient and do what they want and go home. When I asked her why am I not going home, she told me that the road is not so good. Njia si nzuri sana. So that so many people are being arrested. And I didn't understand any of these things. But because now that 1 week of going back to college had passed. Remember, my parents don't know where I am. My mother doesn't know where I am. My husband also doesn't know where I am. So all of them are blaming each other. My mom goes to him, where's your wife? He goes to my mom, where's your daughter? Eventually, they had to agree and start looking for me everywhere, mortuaries, hospitals, everywhere. I was not there.
And no one knew, there's no one who knew you were traveling, not even a friend, apart from?
Apart from them, nobody knew. No one except me and her and her sisters. Yeah. So now when they were at the verge of probably announcing about my, because I think they kept hoping that I will reappear or I will talk, because I think my husband knew because of the things he was doing. So I had just taken off or something. Then I think my mom also somehow, mothers are not very stupid. Yeah. She knew that things were not so good because she could see the change in me. So she thought maybe I've just taken off or I'm sick somewhere or I don't know. But they looked for me. They really did. So when I was coming back, the day of coming back, she came and told me that today you're going to travel. And I said, hallelujah. As long as I'm going to see my children, I will go. And they packed these things, they packed the suitcases. You don't even see where they have hidden those drugs because they put them on false bottom suitcases. And when they are packing, you're not there. So that probably you don't see and probably steal. Oh. Maybe. But it was packed. And I was given the box and a smaller bag that also contained some. And she said, I wish you well. And I said, thank you. And I said, God, help me. I just want to see my mom and my children. And I took off, started the journey. When I arrived in Pakistan at the airport, immediately I saw the askaris. I panicked. Because, already I knew what they had given me. I didn't know the gravity of the weight of the problem I was carrying. But I was just carrying so that I go home and reach home and give these people and forget about them. So I arrived, I saw the askaris, I panicked, I left one box there, and I walked on and through the checking, and I was very nervous, shaking, everything. And with this other one, I went to the plane. And when I got to JKIA, I found policemen waiting for me. Then they walked me to the JKIA cell. There is a cell at the airport. Yeah. I never knew. I was just surprised to find myself in one cell. And the inspector then told me to just tell them the truth, which I did. And I didn't even know my rights. So I just went with their vibe. Whatever they told me to do, I did. I even wrote a statement and he said, no, not like this. He tore it down and now instructed me on how I should write it, which I did because they had told me that once you finish that, we'll let you go.
So you confessed to trafficking? Exactly.
And I had done it, so I had no way of saying no. But now you see the way they sweetened the villain lijifunga is their advice. The inspector told me, write this, as much as I was wrong. But they would have allowed me to write as I knew, not as they instructed me to. But I did it anyway. So waiting to be allowed to go home. And mark you, this is 24th of December. 24th of December, yeah. The following day is Christmas. So I was so happy that at least my mommy and my children were going to see me before Christmas. They never saw me for the next several years. They called my mommy And she told them where she was living. They went there, and they told her what had happened. And you can imagine how shocked she was. She was so shocked. And the following day, they brought her to the airport, and we really, she was sick. We cried a lot. So you can imagine me seeing her. I'd never told her what I was going through. She didn't understand why I didn't. You are my only child. I could have done anything for you. Why didn't you tell me? Why this? Who taught you this? Where? How? You know, there were a lot of questions. She tried even to beg the inspector. I remember her crying and begging them that my daughter is not a criminal. She has never been involved in any kind of crime. Can we go with her? She can even do the court things while at home. But that was never to happen. So she went home very depressed. I was taken back to the cell very depressed. To an extent that I think even right from Pakistan, I would hear strange voices due to the level of depression that I was going through. So it even became worse. That was the beginning of a very long, sad journey.